Let's open it up to the floor and get some questions from you. We've got about 15, 20 minutes or so. Yeah, gentleman there. If you just wait for the mic, tell us who you are.
I can't actually see because my glasses are dirty, so...
Hello, my name is Peter Knight, Chairman of the Context Group. Thank you very much, Mr. Koop. When your belligerent daughter is the age of your non-technically astute mother, what will the supermarket scene look like? Will your daughter be shopping at Lidl?
Well, I think the age gap is about 60 years, so I think anybody that could make a prediction over 60 years would be very brave. I suspect perhaps the big trend in our industry is what I would call disaggregation. So if you go back over a generation, up until about 5 years ago, broadly speaking, the industry was characterized by larger and larger shops, more one-stop shopping, mainly based around family shopping. And what we've seen in the last 5 years, whether it's the discounters, whether it's more convenient shops, whether it's online shopping, is a disaggregation of shopping. So I suspect the world that my daughter will face into, probably well before she gets to the age of my mother, is the ability to pick and choose how she does her grocery shopping. So in some cases, she might just want it to turn up. You know, there are things that you buy regularly, which we could probably predict, and it just arrives. It arrives somewhere that's convenient to you. Whereas at the other end of the spectrum, there are other products that perhaps you'll want to go and buy because she wants to personally select those for whatever reason. She's having some friends round, or she's having a barbecue or whatever. So I think the world that we're facing into will be this increasing disaggregation, and that will be facilitated primarily by technology because it's just easier to do. Doesn't mean the superstore's dead. I believe that in my working lifetime, probably my lifetime, it will still be the place that the majority of customers go for their grocery shopping, the majority of the time. But it will become increasingly disaggregated by the use of technology. Customers have more choices today than they've ever had, and they'll have even more choices in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep, right in the middle there.
Hi, Martin Rich from the Future Fit Foundation. Thanks very much for all of that, and great to hear somebody in your position who sees sustainability as value add, not necessarily something that could just be ignored. Looking at the supply chain issue, obviously you've done great work with farmers and sort of local things that you can perhaps more easily get your arms around. An awful lot of what you sell, though, comes from other massive international conglomerates, so Kellogg's, Coke, Unilever, whoever. To what extent do you feel you can influence them in terms of the sustainability of their products? Because it's effectively your supply chain. Do you have any leverage there?
It depends on, I mean, if you want to be blunt, it depends on the size of the corporation, and it depends on their willingness to be engaged. So I think it's already been alluded to a company like Unilever, where we have a very healthy dialogue about the kind of things that they're doing, and we can positively support them. I remember the launch of the mini aerosols they did a couple of years ago, and we pushed them very hard to actually be more aggressive about launching those products and actually removing the old, less environmentally friendly products than perhaps they themselves were preparing to be. So I think we can positively engage where there is positive engagement to be had, but equally there are some multinationals who perhaps have it less up their agenda. I won't particularly name them. You can draw your own conclusions, you can draw your own judgments, and it's more difficult to have a sensible dialogue about some of the things you might do. But there are definitely, I think in the case of all of the suppliers, where there is a sweet spot is where there's an economic advantage. You know, taking lorries off the road would have a benefit to both ourselves and some of our large suppliers. And if you can find things where there's a mutual agenda, even though they may not see it as part of a CSR agenda, there are definitely things you can do together. But in the end, I mean, I'm quite often asked to be held to account for the behaviour of large branded suppliers, and I would push it back that perhaps people such as yourselves should be pushing that agenda week in, week out in a way that perhaps it's more difficult for us to do.
Okay. There must be another question, surely, in the audience. Yeah, there you go.
Thanks very much. It's Greg Roberts from Ramble Environ. I'm also Sainsbury's customer, Thornhill in Cardiff, a lovely
Brilliant.
store. Thank
you.
One thing I would like to ask, though, is around your customer. You've done a lot of research around your customer. I presume in order to grow, you need to pinch customers from the other supermarkets, the Asda's, the Lidl and so forth. How much of an appetite from those customers and the research that you've done have they for sustainability, for fair trade bananas and so forth?
I think I alluded a little bit to it in my presentation. In the end, we have to communicate to our customers on the territory that is important to them. And as I've said, waste is the number one issue. And actually, if we can help our customers think about how they reduce their waste and how they deal with their packaging, particularly in the context of some very variable recycling regimes across the UK more generally, then you can engage customers across a broader spectrum. So you can engage potentially a wider range of customers because they see the economic benefit. Not only do they see the benefit from the environmental impact, but they see the economic benefit. And in the end, that's the sweet spot of where you need to position yourself. We actually need to, the easiest thing for us to do is to persuade the customers that already shop with us to buy more. So if you could do that next week, that would be really helpful. So actually, yes, we'd like to attract more customers, but there's also a benefit to us as a business just in getting, if every one of our customers bought one more item each week, then I suspect that would be very helpful to our sales and ultimately our profitability.
Yeah, gentleman over there.
Hi, Mike. Julian Hunt from Coca-Cola
Hello, Julian.
Enterprises. Hello again. Question for you. I was really surprised that health wasn't in the kind of mix of what customers are looking for. Is there any particular reason for that? They just think it's job done, you've done everything, or is it just the economic factors coming to the fore?
I'm not sure I can answer that question. You might want to ask one of the team afterwards. It comes in the 5 things that they think we should deal with, interestingly. So it comes on the sort of left-hand side of the chart, but in terms of things which are relevant to them, it's not as high up that list. I'm not sure I can explain why. It, again, doesn't mean that we should stop doing things on the health agenda, because in the end, we're held to account, whether it's through government, through the political world, or indeed increasingly from a customer world. And I suspect in the end, it's one of the areas where they think we can help them in our business model, whether that's through formulation of products or in portion size control and perhaps labelling as well. But perhaps on a day-to-day basis in terms of their choice of supermarket, which is the basis on which the question was asked, perhaps it is less relevant to them. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. And indeed, we've got very significant programs looking at sugar reduction, fat reduction, labelling, and all the other good things that you'd expect us to be doing.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience? Yes, right back there.
At the back.
Go ahead.
Another supply chain question. Given the fact that, forgetting about Ocado, which I'm sure you do, all of the sort of physical supply chain infrastructure in the UK was put down to optimise delivery to store, not delivery to the home. Do you think that the grocery industry should be encouraging or discouraging people to have home deliveries from an environmental perspective?
I can't think off the top of my head whether we've ever looked at it in any great detail. I suspect it probably, broadly speaking, plays a draw. And that's because the size of a grocery delivery is larger, significantly larger than the average basket that a customer would buy from a shop. So on balance, probably plays a draw. There will be lots of cars. It's roughly a 5-to-1 ratio. So 5 cars taken off the road for every 1 grocery delivery in terms of a grocery shop. So I'm just trying to do the arithmetic in my head, but I don't think we've ever looked at it in any great detail. One thing I can say is that our home delivery vans particularly in London and the South East, are increasingly becoming more environmentally sustainable. So we're investing in greener vans, electric vans, and we also give customers the opportunity to piggyback on existing deliveries, so they can opt for a green delivery, so they have to be more flexible on delivery times, but in return for that, they'll piggyback on something that's already coming to their area. So without being able to comment directly on the contrast, I'll ask the question, we'll see if we can get an answer to your question. What I can comment on is the fact that we are doing a lot to reduce the environmental impact of our home delivery service. I suspect off the top of my head it's about the same in terms of its impact, but I couldn't answer the question directly.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, lady in the middle there.
Hello, Alison Rodwell from Impact the Future. I was interested to hear that your research confirmed that consumers are interested predominantly in themselves, their local community, and then the wider world. I was interested to know if you segmented that according to age and if there's any difference with the older generation and the younger generation. I see that you did socioeconomic groups, but did you look at age as well?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, apart from the other part of the research which broadly said that you look at age, you look at social demographics, and there's an equal level, broadly speaking, an equal level of engagement in the topic. So I can't tell you off the top of my head the read-through into the second piece of research, but I'm pretty sure it would show a similar picture to the first piece of research. And then for lots of people, there are individual topics that matter a lot to them. So what you also see is that there are specific issues which will spike for individual customers, which again doesn't have a particular demographic or age bias or even geographic bias. It's very much to that particular individual.
Anyone else? Any questions from the audience? No? Yep. Oh, there's actually, you've had one. Let me do that one over there, and then if we've got time, we'll come back to you. I'm sorry. Yeah, let's do that one at the back. Probably going to have to make this the last one. I'm sorry.
Hi, thanks for coming today.
Hello.
My name's Cheryl. I'm sure you're aware that France has come out with a new law about taking any food waste and giving it to charities as opposed to throwing it out. And I was wondering if that's something that Sainsbury's might consider.
Yeah, I mean, we were very engaged in already in reducing food waste, and we made a decision a number of years ago to not put any waste to landfill, and we have a sort of 4 stages. We'd like to sell it to our customers first and foremost, so we need to make sure our supply chains are optimised as they can be. We can, the number 2 on the step is that we give it away for human consumption. So in effect, any charity can come to any one of our stores and we can have a conversation about them picking up our food waste. The challenge is that if we could predict it, we could probably do something about it. So it's incredibly unpredictable. So although it's perceived as a big number, in reality for 1,300 shops across 365 days a year, the amount of waste per shop is relatively small and it can be completely random. And actually most food charities don't see that as a benefit because they can't cope with that, and it's also mostly short life product. So it is a challenge. The third part of the process is we will give it away for animal usage, and lastly we'll use it for anaerobic digestion and production of electricity. And actually in the round we believe that's a reasonably sensible position if you look at the kind of environmental impact. But the primary challenge for food donations for particularly food banks and similar charities is actually the volatility of what comes through. Because it's, as I say, generally speaking, short life products, and generally speaking in small quantities, and generally speaking completely random in the kind of thing. You know, last week, as an example, last weekend it was predicted that it was going to be 30 degrees at the weekend. It was nice and it was sunny, but it was by no means 30 degrees. And you can imagine that has quite a significant impact on what customers buy. We have a thing called the burger-ometer in our business, which kind of looks at the burger sales week in, week out, and that's a pretty good indicator of the weather. And it was about halfway down the peak that we achieved last year, just to give you a sense of where it was. But clearly that creates volatility in our supply chain, and that's something that we have to manage week in, week out.
What are you most proud of in your first year as CEO?
I think we've been through a lot in the last year. I think the environment that I found myself in, and the business found itself in, has changed beyond all recognition over the past year, and I think that's led us to go back to first principles and think very carefully about where we needed to take the business in the future. So perhaps if I sort of took it back to the 12th of November, which was my first sort of proper accounting, talking about what the business would be doing over the next period of time, then that was a pretty big deal for me. So, and having laid out the plan, now our job is to get on and make it happen. So,
Sure.
retail is mostly about execution. So
Yeah.
you can have all the brightest strategies in the world, but unless you get on and do it, you won't succeed.
And we look forward to seeing what you'll come up with. Thank you very much indeed, Mike, for being so candid 2 days before a trading update.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your questions. Mike Coop, everyone.